What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the Funky Brain Podcast. My name is Dennis, and this is my Funky Brain. Our guest today is a motivational speaker, a yoga guru, a world traveler, and a fellow podcast host of the Get Happy Hour podcast. She's joining us from Sydney, Australia today, Ms. Carla Simpson. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. So it's a beautiful sunny day here in Australia. So it's about 27 degrees and the sun's shining. So I've been for my swim in the beach, which is always a nice way to start the day.
You've spent years of self-discovery and working through your path on your own life's journey, like all of us. Like my story is rooted in addiction recovery and alcoholism. And just like I had a real self-destructive past. And I was able to overcome a lot of that. But, I still have my own struggles. But share with us about like your story, like what it was like for you, like in the past. Did you have a tough time? What struggles did you face that, kept you from getting to where you want to be? And then what happened in your life to get you to the level of awareness you are?
Well, for me, it wasn't like that at all. I grew up in a beautiful family, got a great mum and dad. They're still married. And I love life. I've always enjoyed life, or what I thought I did. And I always wanted to be an actress. I was big set on goals on, going to make it to be an actress. And I set out to, get into acting school in New York, and I moved to New York, and I lived in New York, and I started traveling the world, and I spent 4 years, backpacking around, and I lived a great life. Like then, I had no responsibility at all. I was just living out of my backpack, and I really put the partay in partay. And it was when I came home to Australia that I opened up my own business and living a pretty good life. But I always knew that there was something inside me, like there was something more that I had to help people, that I had to give. And a lot of my friends at the time were, from my hometown, has sort of like married the guy that they've went out on a date with, like the first date, and they've had babies and they bought a house. And I just knew that I was a little bit different. There was more to life, and that I didn't want to get stuck in this cycle that not it's a bad thing, that's their choice, but it just wasn't me. Started running my own business, and I got into the hustle and bustle of trying to build this up, and I put my heart and soul into it. And I've always been very goal orientated. So I, was putting long hours in. And it was only that I was running a lot. I used to run marathons, and my knees were really giving me a lot of grief. And I was going to see, exercise physiologist, and they're like, Carla, you've got to stop doing what you're doing. You've got to slow down. Maybe some stretching and some yoga. And I was like, oh God, no, absolutely not going to happen. Carla and slowing down wasn't going to happen. Anyway, I cried myself to the end of one of the races, and I thought, okay, I've got to do some stretching. I've got to slow down. I've got to do whatever. So I dragged myself into a yoga class. I still remember the teacher saying, now it's time to relax, close your eyes, and turn off all the voices inside your head. And then she said, she might have seen me flinch, I'm not sure. But then she said, and if you think that you haven't got voices inside your head, that was a voice that just told you haven't got a voice. Oh my God, I have a voice inside my head. And, I realized that I wasn't the only one. And then I started to discover ways to silence the voice, this inner critic that was always, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to work so hard, you got to work so hard. And that's where I really started to discover who I really was and how to silence my mind. And yeah, that was a journey into what true happiness is. Because no matter what, we can be striving. We want the best house. We want to marry that man. We want to have a baby. But when we get there, we're still not going to be happy unless we've learned to really cultivate our own true happiness from within. Then none of that even matters. And if we don't learn how to be grateful and to appreciate those things that do come across, like the house on the beach or the nature, or then again, we're never going to be happy. And I've spent a lot of time traveling the world and living in different parts. I've worked in orphanages in, Africa and India. And there's these people that are happy and they have absolutely nothing compared to what we have. And it just taught me that all this stuff doesn't give us anything. Except it maybe a moment of validation, like, oh, wow, I've got a house, but now I've got a huge amount of debt that I've got to be so stressed out about. And, when is enough enough? So for me, it's just my whole journey hasn't been a big breakthrough or anything like that. It's just been truly discovering who I was on the inside. Not all these images and all these different personalities that I built up throughout my life, but really who I am and what makes my soul happy. And what makes me happy and what makes you happy might be completely different. For me, one of the things I have a joy list, which, each day I have to make sure that I'm mark off and do 5 of those things on my joy list. So, jumping in the ocean is one of them, meditating, practicing yoga. But I love to sit in the sun and read a book. I just love that every single day. And I read all about these different stories of self-development books, but also people that have gone through hardships, biographies. And it's always just reminds me of how lucky we are and that we can. And I truly believe that no matter who we are and what we've gone through, we can all learn to be happy and to make that choice every day.
I have a similar story. I was in Belize. Maybe it was like 15 years ago or so. And it was shortly after I got sober. It was like my first big adult trip on my own. Everything you were just talking about rings so true. We're also worried about like our 401k, our retirement plans and our traffic and relationships and the house and all the stuff that we need to have to fit into the world where we live. And I was down there, and that trip was really one of my biggest awakening moments of my life. I went down there. I didn't plan on really doing much, just chilling. I didn't know what to expect, but I wanted to go to this paradise beach. And then when I got there, my plane was canceled overnight. I was stuck like somewhere in Texas, and it was a disaster getting there. They lost my bag. I didn't have that for like 3 or 4 days. But anyway, I finally get there, and then they're like, "You should dive, scuba diving." And I was like, "No way, man." But then I was like, "Okay, sure." I have this long story about the diving adventure, but basically I didn't know what I was doing. They pushed me in the water and I panicked a little bit. And then I finally went down and my whole life changed right then. The other thing I started doing on that trip was jogging. I went out one morning, and this is how it relates to the story you were telling. I went out one morning, I jogged, maybe it was like, a few hundred meters down the beach. And there was another resort there. And this local guy, he was just this local dude. His job was to rake the seaweed off the beach. And he was smiling. He was so happy. He's like, "How are you, sir?" And he was genuinely wanted to know how I was. And he was genuinely happy that he had that job sweeping seaweed off.
Oh, sure he was.
Yes. And I jogged, and then my world started opening up like every hour. And then I went back, and the next morning I went back up, and he's like, and there he was again. He was sweeping the seaweed, and he was just happier than a pig in shit. And I was worried about like my credit card bills. And I was like in paradise in Belize. And I'm like, I realized that we worry about the wrong shit.
I love that story. Thank you for sharing that. One of my favorites that I talk about in my keynotes is, I don't know if you're aware of the Kokoda Trail, which is in Papua New Guinea. And it's quite a big trek that the Australian and New Zealand fighters did back in the war. So it's in Australia, it's known as like a real hard trek, 10 days of up and down. And, we learn throughout history. Anyway, I went over and did that a few years ago with a group of people from here. I took a group over, and my porter, I'll never forget this. So there's this little man carrying all our bags, and we're walking, and we got fed like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And yes, the food wasn't like 5-star, but we were getting good food. But you were exercising a lot, and there was a very hard hike, so people were getting hungry. And we're on the way to our next break, and everyone was starting to really whinge a lot, the group. And my porter, he's standing behind me, and he goes, "Oh, I don't get you Aussies." He goes, "You come to my country and you want to walk." And he goes, "You actually pay me to take you to walk." And then he goes, "But all you do is you bloody whinge." He said, "Me, I walk all day, every day, no shoes on my feet. But when I get home and I see my wife and my baby, oh, me just the happiest man in the world."
That is so beautiful.
it just reminds you, we don't need all this, but it's nice and it can be really great if we take the time to appreciate it, but that's not what we're here for.
That's right. Yeah.
And I mean, if you just look around the world we live in, we're creating chaos.
We are creating chaos. I agree with you 100%. Tell us another, one of your favorite stories about traveling around the world. Like one of your favorite places, your challenges.
I always say this to people, it's really hard to compare because I spent so much time doing different things, like working in an orphanage and, living on the ground and doing that is, I can't even explain that experience. Like it's just, it's heartbreaking, but humbling at the same time. And then I've done some crazy stuff, like the big treks, like I've done Everest Base Camp and the Kokoda Trail. And then when I first went overseas, I spent 3 years really backpacking. So I did Oktoberfest, I did running the bulls in Pamplona. I mean, I drank, like I don't drink anymore, but I drank every night of the week for years. And I mean, I had the best time of my life and I would never give it up for anything. But it's just all so different. And I host yoga retreats in Bali, which is always so nurturing. I wouldn't say that I have a favorite experience. I would just say that, when we can, or even in our own home areas, to travel as much as we can, because we learn so much and you see so many different things, and it gives you just this whole shift on life. Being in China is just so different compared to being in Turkey I can't wait till we can travel again. And I mean, Australia is awesome as well. I like to travel around Australia and see as much as I can and talk to as many people as I can, because the thing is, everyone has a story. And while you think today that you're having a really bad day, you might just speak to someone who is having a whole lot of a worse day than you, and you might be able to help them out just by giving them a smile or, saying, hey, that coffee's on me.
So I was at a meeting a couple of weeks ago, or not even a couple of weeks ago, it was last weekend. And there was a kid there. He was 22 years old. And he was talking about how 2 hours before, he just got a phone call from a doctor because he was having some brain stuff. They thought he might have like Parkinson's disease or something, because they weren't sure what was going on. And they ran some tests. And he's 22 years old. They found out that he has a tumor on the end of his brainstem. It's inoperable, and they gave him 18 months to live. They gave him a 10% chance of hitting his 24th birthday. It makes you stop and think, like, what are we worrying about? We live in this microwave world where we want everything right away. And as soon as something is just a little bit off, we think we have all these problems. But we don't have problems. They're a bump in the road. And now if you have a health problem, now you have a problem. But the money, the relationships, like to lose 5 pounds, what do people think about me? Am I supposed to do this or supposed to do that? Like, we worry about the wrong stuff.
The problem is we get so caught up in our own, and I mean, I do it too. You get so caught up in our own life, in our own routine, doing what we've got to do to make things work or whatever. But I think for me, what the biggest tip has been is to stop every day, to slow down, to take that moment to pause and just to notice, because so often we don't even take the time to notice the sun shining or, the lady next door. We're so rushed. Oh my God, I'm late to work. I've got to get to the next thing. Oh my goodness, where's my phone? I don't know where anything is, that we forget. And we don't even look at someone in the eye and just say, hey, how you going?
Yes. Yeah.
So I think for me personally, it's just reminding myself every day to stop for a second and just pause and notice what's going on.
Yeah. I'm a coach for addiction recovery. So, and just all around life mastery stuff. But one of the assignments I give, because I give a lot of homework to my clients, I came up with it just last week. And I've given it to all my clients now. And I even posted it up on LinkedIn. What I've done is, because every morning I told you, I go around that lake or I go on a hike and I'm on top of a mountain at 7:00 in the morning, looking at the world start. So I took pictures and I was like, wow, these are beautiful. So every day now I give my clients this assignment, and it's really simple. And throughout the day, I want everybody to take 5 beautiful pictures. And some days it could be a sunrise or a sunset. Some days it could be a blade of grass or your cat smiling or your dog, whatever it is. 5 beautiful pictures every day, because that makes you stop. Like you just said, take 5 beautiful pictures every day and then send me at least one. And I'm getting, one of my clients is a fiduciary, which they basically help when people die, they handle their estates.
Mm-hmm.
So she's near their bedsides when they die. And she took a picture of her holding one of her client's hands 1 minute before she died. And that was the beautiful picture that she sent me. That's gratitude. Beauty is different for everybody. But I see the sunrises, the sunsets, the dogs, the lakes, the mountains, all the beauty.
We are so blessed in so many ways. We just don't take that time to even stop to remind ourselves of that.
So if you can go back to your 15-year-old self and have a talk with that girl, what would you tell her?
Just to not give a shit about other people.
Yes.
Because I think like at the time I didn't realize, but now when I'm looking back, I was that girl that cared, you know, what others thought. I had pimples all over my face and I used to get really upset about it. You know, I got caught up in that body image thing with all the girls, like wanting to be looking like, I don't know, the next best thing. And just like hanging around the cool, I was quite a popular girl at school, but I always wanted to be that popular girl and hang around the popular group where, you know, really they're not my friends. So I'd like to just say to the girl, just don't give a shit and treat people kindly. Because, you know, sometimes I look back on the way that I treated people, other girls in school or even my mum and my dad, and I wasn't very nice. Yeah, so I just think like just be kinder and to slow down and to not care.
And love each other more.
Yeah, exactly. And not to, you know, keep up with the Jonases because it doesn't matter. Because everyone, when I was leaving, like going overseas, everyone was like, what do you mean you're going overseas? You got to be an actress. Like you got to go to school, get a job, you know, go to uni. And I was like, nah, it's not me, man. Like, but I did it. I looked like the odd one out where I'm so grateful I took that leap of faith and just went instead of just doing what everyone else had done. But yeah, I think that telling Carla, I just say, don't give a shit. Be kind, do the right thing, and treat people the way you want to be treated. There's a reason why that's a famous quote, you know, because we all like to be treated with love and compassion. And I think that when we treat other people with love and compassion, it helps us become a better person.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much. So if people want to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
So you can definitely get in touch with me I have my website, Carla Maree. I have my Instagram, Facebook. I have a podcast, Get Happy Hour. I have a book just about to be launched. So you keep that out. Yes. It's called The Encyclopedia of Happiness. So it's just all little tips for, you know, one day if you're feeling a bit down in the dumps, you can just open up a page and it might be the page on, you know, getting out in nature, and you remind yourself to go out in nature. So I've called it the encyclopedia so that, you know, it's not just a one-off read, it's coming back to it over times and thinking, okay, what can I work on today? So there's little different things that I do every day to bring out the best in me and my happiness. And yeah, just reach out to me, Instagram, Facebook. I love to hear from people, and yeah, I love to be part of anyone's life if I can.
Awesome. Well, you're definitely inspiring, and I feel happier just by talking to you. Thanks again for being here on the Funky Brain Podcast. I appreciate it, Carla. Have a beautiful day today.
And thank you all very much for having me, and thank you for having me and for becoming such a good friend from, you know, all over there. And I'm here and we've never really met, but I feel like you're my soul brother.
I know. Yeah, we've had a lot of fun communications. Again, thank you so much. I love you from far away. And thank you, everybody, for tuning into the Funky Brain Podcast. Have a beautiful day today, and I'll talk to you soon. So you can't think your way into a new way of acting. You have to act your way into a new way of thinking and being. Hi, I'm Dennis Berry, best-selling author, speaker, and life coach for addiction recovery. So many people are stuck in their addiction, whether it's like drugs or alcohol or food or shopping or sex or money, and they think they could just stop or try to figure it out on their own, but they don't change anything in their lives. Nothing changes if nothing changes. In order for change to happen, you have to change something. My clients will be like, oh, I'll stop tomorrow, or if this happens, then I stop, or someday I'll just give it up. And then they just sit around and think, and hope for different or better results, but it doesn't happen. You have to take action. Action most people aren't willing to take. People don't become willing until they're in enough pain, me included. And unfortunately, they wait and they wait and time passes by. Even if you are willing, you don't even know where to begin. And that's where I come in. In my best-selling book, Funky Wisdom, A Practical Guide to Life, I talk about the how approach. How do I get sober? How do I stop doing drugs? How do I become healthier? How do I have more successful relationships? How do I become more financially successful? And the answer is how. Honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. I have to honestly admit that there's a problem. I have to honestly admit that things aren't going well and there needs to be changes. And then once I do that, the door opens and I become open to seeing new ways of living. And then I become willing to make those changes. You can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. That's why I'm here to help. And, you know, I've been working with clients for over 15 years and helping them get clean and sober and change their lives and achieve inner peace and success. If you or somebody you love is struggling and doesn't know where to begin and how to make those changes to get to where they need to be, give me a call. Not tomorrow or in a week from now when you're hungover and your life is falling apart. Call now. Start making that change today and you'll be glad that you did. I'm sending you love and good vibes. Have a great day today.